That's nice how you blurred the background. That's very cool.
Yeah, I came up with that all by myself.
How do you, what is that?
It's a virtual where you're, first of all, Joli's the one who cued me up to it. And it is right where you go to change your virtual backgrounds when you click where the stop video little arrow is.
Uh-huh.
You, instead of choose virtual background, click on choose video filter. Oh no, actually in virtual background, click on choose virtual background. It'll say none, and then it'll say blur.
Unless you don't have a good computer.
None. Video filters.
Yeah, no, click on virtual backgrounds.
Okay. I got it. I'm on virtual backgrounds.
There you go. So it should be that if you don't have a good processor, your computer won't recognize the option.
Oh, okay. I must not have a good processor, because that's cool though. I like that, Rich.
Thanks. I appreciate that. All right. So
welcome.
Thank you. Are we recording? Are we here?
I always just start recording before and then the producer will go in and decide where we want to, where we want to officially launch off from. But, the people, I think, enjoy the raw, authentic conversation.
Right. I do.
Like that, just like run off and get something and come back. That's the no idea zone. And you look like you're in an 80s music video back there. You look like you're in Aha's Take on Me. Remember that?
Aha's Take on Me, one of the best and worst songs of all time.
Yeah, you were in that music video just for a second when you were getting your bong.
Hilarious. Since we're recording, can I just black my camera out for one quick second?
Yeah.
All right. All right, I'm back.
You're just taking a puff, dude. You could do that on camera.
Oh, I didn't know if we were going live or if people were going to see it or not. I don't know.
Oh, it's just recorded and it comes out in a week or two.
Okay,
but no,
cool.
I mean, this is not, I don't think this crowd is going to call Joe McCarthy, the ghost of Joe McCarthy on you and lock you up for relaxing.
Well, everybody knows I smoke pot. It's legal in California, and I used to own 2 dispensaries, so I got nothing on.
Well, I certainly know you smoke pot because of the difficulty in your memory of getting together to do this podcast.
Well, here we are.
Here we are, but it is funny. And then I have an absent-minded producer who's a well-meaning guy, and so I never know who's going or coming. But
right.
But I'm really happy to have you, and I'm honored that you dig the podcast, and so here we are, dude. And I just got done. So for people in the No Idea Zone, Rich and I are acquainted. We're pals, but we haven't known each other that much. We are friends through a mutual comedy friend, Danny Robinson.
Correct.
And we met, I want to say, was it 7 or 8 years ago?
You and I met probably the first time about 7 or 8 years ago, yeah.
Right, at the Super Bowl party.
At one of Danny's famous Super Bowl parties.
Yes, and you've been going to these Super Bowl parties for years, I would imagine.
Well, Danny is not only my agent, but he's one of my oldest friends. I met Danny literally like the first year I started doing stand-up. Like I've known him since around 1987-ish.
And that's when he was booking the late night spots, right? Was he doing that then?
He was an agent at APA, and he was a goofy guy, and I met him at a softball game.
Oh, so was it an agency softball game, a comedy softball game?
It was a comedy softball game. It was like a Sunday afternoon comedy softball game, and I was brought by Wayne Fetterman and a couple of other guys, and it was my first time playing with these guys, and I was catching, and I'm behind the plate.
Talking shit.
Talking shit. No batter, no batter, no batter. And Danny gets up to the plate and everybody's like, hey, it's Danny Robinson. And they started busting his balls. I didn't know who Danny was. So I'm like, no batter, no batter. And Danny, like, finally, he turns around and he looks at me and he goes, hey, do you want to shut the fuck up? It's not the major leagues.
How did he do in that at bat?
I'm sure he got on. Danny always hit the ball. Danny's a good ball player. But he was the only agent in the game. It was all comedian.
Oh, that's funny. Was Martin Mull there? Because I remember Danny telling me about
Oh God, Martin came out and played a couple times. I don't think he was there that day, but I did play ball with Martin Mull a time or two.
So funny, man.
Yeah, and everyone used to come out. Seinfeld came out, Jake Johansson would come out, Mark Lano came out a lot when he owned the Improv with Bud. Yeah.
So you started in 1986 at the peak of American comedy.
I did start in 1986. I did, February of 1986. And I guess it was literally like right as the boom was about 50% in already of the boom.
Right.
Yeah. So I kind of got in when the getting was good.
Right. Just before you got in, just before Raw came out, just before Eddie Murphy Raw came out.
Yep.
And in New York, were you in New York?
No, I was in LA. I was a guard at Paramount when Eddie was making those movies, actually. And
that's funny.
Yeah.
That's wild, man.
Yeah, in fact, I went to go see Raw with a couple of comedians.
So you've been out here forever. You're a New Yorker, but you've been out here forever.
I'm a New Yorker. My family moved to LA when I was still in school. So I graduated high school in the little-known place called the San Fernando Valley. And then I've been back and forth to New York several times since.
Well, dude, for a guy who's been out here for that long, I wouldn't have known that.
Yeah, most people don't. For some reason, everybody in my family lost their accent.
You could take the guy out of New York, but you're very New York. It's kind of like when I found out Pepitone was living in the Valley. I was like, I don't picture a guy like you living in the Valley, dude. I don't know where. I guess I pictured him living in Larchmont or downtown. Or
really? No, Eddie to me is a North Hollywood guy. I see Eddie living off like Addison and Lancashire in like a studio apartment with shag carpet that he's been in since like 1991 that he's paying like $572 a month for.
That's probably accurate, actually. I've seen some video of that apartment. Yeah, man, that's really cool. And basically, so let me give you a proper intro. So this guy obviously has been around a long time. One of probably the most veteran comics I've ever had on here, beside Rick Overton and a couple others. Basically has performed with the likes of Richard Pryor, which I want to ask you about because that was in your bio. Has performed with Richard Pryor and opened for 4 years for our mutual friend Mitch Hedberg. Please give a warm No Idea Zone welcome to Mr. Richard Chassler. There you go. There's your intro, dude.
I hear them. Although it's socially distanced, so it's more like.
And he's the co-creator currently of sort of like an international network of comedy Zoom shows.
That is not true. That is absolutely not true. I am not the co-creator of Rampantly. Rampantly was created by Joli Rx. I certainly lend a very heavy hand there, but I could never, ever claim to be the co-creator.
How about top assistant?
Top assistant works pretty good, I guess. Whipping boy, whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty great. I mean, considering what we had this year, it's pretty great. So I did a Zoom mic, and that's probably the best thing I have on video from this year. Was your
Zoom comedy, man. That's a conversation. That's a whole conversation unto itself.
Well, we'll get into that. I want to first start with, gosh, man, there's so much to unpack with you. You were best friends with Mitch.
Mitch was my best friend.
And you started touring with Mitch. What year would you say?
Well, Mitch opened for me. I was already a headliner when I met Mitch. I was a young headliner, but I was headlining. Mitch was barely a feature act. And I would like get him some shows sometimes, and he would like open for me sometimes. And then like, I guess really 90, let's see, 92. I would say around 96 or 97, 96 maybe, Mitch called me one day and he's like, man, I got a gig. No, what he really did was he really called me and the conversation went like this. He was like, man, Chassler, I got to ask you for a favor. And I'm like, okay, how much? And he goes, no, really, I got to ask you for a real favor, but don't be mad. And I'm like, okay, really, how much? And he's like, no, man, I don't need money. I got a gig at the, I think it was Irvine, at the Irvine Improv. And I want you to open for me. And I was like, why would I be mad? You know, and he's like, well, because, you know, man, like you're a headliner already. I'm like, dude, I'll do it. And then his manager, Dave Becky, just started getting him gig after gig after gig. They started rolling in and I just started working with him, you know, when we could. And then it got easier and easier. And it just sort of, yeah.
Tell me about the genesis of Mitch, because I've heard stories. First of all, I started in some, well, Mitch, I think he started in Coconuts down
in Minneapolis.
Okay, in Minneapolis, but there's a club down in Florida called Coconuts,
right.
A chain.
Yeah, I used to work at Bob Kephart, I think was the
Bob Shoemaker.
Oh, Shoemaker, that's right.
And I mean, you know, it's not the greatest chain of comedy clubs. Let's just be honest. It's like they're D rooms, but you know they're easy to get on. And if you're a young and up and coming comic, the guy's pretty friendly to comics.
Mitch and I used to do the Coconuts in Grand Cayman.
Right. Yeah. He used to have like 20. I think he had one in fucking out in England.
Yeah, he had rooms everywhere. Shoemaker
crazy
everywhere.
So the people from sort of the legend and the stories, like people would say, well, Hedberg, man, like people would say Hedberg he had about 20 minutes. He had about 20 minutes and then something happened and he just became like, he just exploded and people wanted it and he found his voice or whatever. So I was wondering if you could just maybe give a little insight into that or if that's not true.
Well, I wasn't around then, but I will tell you a story that's 100% true. In 1990, I want to say 92, but it might have been 93. I get a call from a woman named Judy Brown, who is now Judy Marmel. Do you know Judy?
I don't think so. Was she involved with improv in some way?
Yes. Judy Marmel's married to Steve Marmel. She also is a manager. She manages Sebastian Maniscalco. She is at Levity. So I've known Judy for a very long time, back when she was living in Colorado Springs, booking a room called Jeff Valdez's Comedy Corner. So Judy calls me like 92 or 93, and she's like, I'm putting on this comedy festival, and I need like a headliner that I know.
Aspen.
No, this is the comedy festival that morphed into Aspen, but it wasn't Aspen at the time. And she's like, I need a headliner who can come in and like be a ringer. Will you be the ringer? So I'm like, well, it's 2 weeks. All your hotels are paid. You get driven around Colorado to different places, the Air Force Academy, like all kinds of crazy places. And there's 15 people in it. I said, all right, fine, I'll do it. So I flew in and my luggage got lost at the airport. Okay. And I was wearing ripped jeans, a Grateful Dead t-shirt, Birkenstocks, and a Paisley baseball hat. True story. It's 1993 or 92. I don't remember which one. But anyway, this guy walks up to me out of the blue in the baggage claim area. And he's like, hey, are you at the comedy festival? And I was like, yeah, why? Are you? And he goes, yeah, I'm a comedian. I go, so am I. And they lost my luggage. And he goes, oh man, that sucks. You smoke weed? You met
Mitch Hedberg.
You got to listen, Steve, because it's Mitch's cadence. So he goes, oh man, that sucks. Do you smoke weed? And I go, yeah. And thank God my weed was not in my luggage. And he goes, great, because I don't have any weed. Wait, he goes, but I got a pipe. I go, okay, well, I can fill that pipe. So we literally walked outside of the sliding doors at the airport in Denver. This was before 9/11, so there was no security. And Mitch had a broken antler pipe that had like the bowl and the stem, but they had snapped off. So you had to push the bowl against the stem and then put the stem in your mouth and apply pressure to it while you were hitting it in order to get it to draw, you know, in a semi-airtight way. It was the most ridiculous thing ever. But Mitch and I sat outside the airport and got baked for a half hour waiting for the shuttle van to pick us up. We roomed together for the whole 2 weeks. We were literally inseparable and as cynical about the entire event as could be. Now, here's where the story gets interesting and pertains to what you said. There's 15 people in this thing. And every single night, I would go on stage and I would do my set, and Mitch would be like, man, Chassler, you are the funniest guy in this thing. And every night, Mitch would go on stage and he would do his set and he'd get off stage. And I would go, man, Mitch, you are the fucking funniest guy in this thing. And every night, after all the judges tallied the votes, Mitch and I would finish 14th and 15th every night.
Who were the fucking judges?
That's a true story. The judges were Steve Marmel, because he was with Judy at the time, but not married yet. So Steve was one of the judges, I think. And then they would get judges from the local venues we were working. Like at the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs, the judges were like a 5-star general, a guy, a pilot, you know, whatever. You know, and I'm working the crowd. I look at the 5-star general. I go, what are those, 5 stars? That's nothing. Drop and give me 20. He did not laugh at that.
Dude, well, now you know why. I mean, obviously, that's why you were finishing 15th and 6-star, 14th.
But Mitch and I were literally finishing dead last every night. Every night. And I thought he was hilarious. He was eating shit. He thought I was hilarious. I was eating shit. And by the way, I was not the ringer. She had like 5 headlines. Tammy Pescatelli was there. Me. A guy named Peter Berman. Do you know Pete Berman? Peter Berman was there. She had like all these other headliners too.
It's like she kind of like she called up five headliners and figured one would show.
Exactly, and everybody said, "All right, I'll do it." And I was like the youngest of the headliners. I was like the newest headliner.
So you last in line.
Mitch and I, we just ate shit for the whole 2 weeks.
But you have that's memory of meeting this. I mean, for what a lot of people, that's your buddy. But for a lot of people, that's like he's like a fucking coyote. He's like a legend.
Yeah, I know. It's weird.
He changed comedy. I mean, really, if he hadn't had his problems there in the mid 2000s, if he hadn't had those, addiction issues, probably would have been much bigger than any comedian in his generation, I think.
No question about it. No question about it.
I opened up for him. And this gets me to you and I meeting at the Super Bowl party.
Right.
Because I know you're high a lot, but I don't remember if you remember our meeting, because I was talking to somebody at the party and I go, oh, I got to open up once for Mitch Hedberg. And you said, no, you didn't. I opened up for nobody.
I wonder who that was.
That was you. Yeah. I go, dude. I opened up for him too. And I have to now suddenly I'm in front of Joe McCarthy.
Are you now, or have you ever been?
Yeah. And I'm like, it was 2001. And I'll never forget this because I was a huge fan of him. And I wasn't like you where I was just pals meeting him. I mean, he was already huge. He's selling out the Stardome. That's a 500-seat comedy club. And I don't know if it's there anymore, but was the biggest comedy club in the country. And he was selling out 6 shows a week,
Yeah, it was regular. We would pack him out. We were adding shows. Like, we would sell out shows. We would just add. He would literally be like, man, you want to do another show tonight? I'm like, what? He goes, we could sell another show. I'm like, all right, let's do another show.
That's insane. Now, when did that start happening, would you say?
98-ish, I think, around 98-ish it really started to really like become like, I was like, fuck, this is really like, this is something.
Dave Becky's an amazing guy that he had the perception to know that.
Becky got him. Becky got him when no one else did. That's the thing.
Yeah. And that's like, guys like that really help the comedy business be better. Because there's so many 5-star generals. There's so many of those 5-star general people keeping gates, you know.
The thing about Mitch is that Mitch was doing something at a time where monology was really the ruling class in comedy. You know, most comedians monologists, and you get these great one-line guys every now and then. Geechee Guy, you know, Rickles,
Right.
Stephen Wright, you know. But Mitch was sort of like this hybrid, you know, because like he wasn't necessarily just doing one-liners. He just painted the quirkiest fucking pictures. That's the thing. He was like, listening to Mitch, here, you can quote me on this. Listening to Mitch is like looking at Dali.
Yeah, if he was much more entertaining. Dali was much more entertaining. This is my memory from being 24 in Birmingham. First of all, short form comics like that, they don't do 2 hours. Mitch was on for an hour and a half, or he would, the waitresses would be pissed off because they wanted to go home. They wanted to go home, Rich.
Yeah,
and he would be on stage, and every show, none like, you know, these comics like Seinfeld, they go on and they have a routine. It's a very sober, calculated, polished thing. He would go on and it would be a totally, first of all, 50% of the jokes were different from the night before, and they were never in the same order, ever.
Yeah, that was one of the things that we used to love to do, because I work the same way. I'm very freeform in my act. I do a lot of improv, and we used to literally try. We used to do things like, all right, tonight let's do them backwards, and we would like go on and open with closers and like try to do the set back. Like we would do all kinds of shit just to mix it up, because you got to keep it fresh and interesting for you, so it's fresh and interesting for them.
Right, because that raw material. Right.
Yeah. First, you got to learn the shit. Once you learn the shit, then you can divorce yourself from it.
Right. Once you have your chops.
Well, yeah, and the material is, you know, worked out, and you know the bits.
See, I always take on a certain amount of unpolished material every show I do. That's because I just couldn't get on a whole lot, and I had to do it like that in order to learn faster, because I wasn't getting on. I started later. I started when Mitch was getting famous. That's when I started. So
right.
Comedy boom was over by then. And
oh yeah, clubs in 1994 and 95. I think between 94 and 95, like 670 comedy clubs nationwide went out of business in 2 years, because of the oversaturation of comedy on television between Evening at the Improv and Comedy on the Road and Comic Express and Comic Strip Live. And, you know, like everywhere you looked, there was fucking stand-up comedy, and nobody had to pay money to get in, and nobody was buying 2 drinks. So that luster kind of got wiped off of stand-up comedy for a while.
Yeah, and guess when I started? The end of 95. I started 670 comedy clubs are closing. Hey, kid, welcome to the fucking show.
You literally started in the slump of the industry, literally.
Yeah. The good thing about when I started, though, if I have to pick out a good thing, looking back, because you never know, hindsight's always 20/20. There were not that many comedians. There were not that many comedians. I was the only comedian basically in my town that was starting where I was at the time. Maybe there were a handful. And if you wanted to do, you had to go to you had to drive an hour to the open mics were like an hour apart. It wasn't like now where the open mics are like shows, you know?
Yeah, it's totally different. We didn't even have open mics. I mean, there was an open mic Tuesday at the Laugh Factory, Monday night at the Comedy Store in the Belly Room, and then the Natural Fudge Company had you could just go there and just go on stage. Other than that, you had the Dave McNary show, on Sundays at 5 o'clock at the Ice House. That was it. And by the way, the same 20 guys showed up to all of these places. That's all there were. There were 20 of us that were like open micers around back then, 1985, 86, you know, like.
It was kind of like, but it feels like more like a Jedi thing when there's only a few people doing it. When there's only a few people in your class, like you're coming up and you have a crop of comics that you're coming up with. And it's not 7,000. And I realize social media distorts how many comics are out there because you have a web of, you could see that, you know, every comic in the country is connected to you on social media. That's a totally different thing. But it's just, you know, it was cool looking back on it. It was really cool. And, you know, even though the clubs were closing down, I was able to feature pretty quick.
Right.
I was featuring by the time I'd been doing stand-up for 3 or 4 years because they just didn't have anyone else, you know? And so, you know, I mean, not in A rooms, like in weekend rooms, but
sure.
But yeah, man, that's really cool. So you performed with Richard Pryor. I want to hear about that.
No, I did not. I got to bring him up one time on stage when it was tag team at the Comedy Store, very late on a Sunday night. I did not perform with Richard Pryor.
Okay.
I brought him on stage.
You shared a stage with Richard Pryor.
I did for probably 40 seconds.
What year?
87.
Wow. That's still fucking cool. And did you get to talk to him at all? Did you?
Yeah, I put my hand around him like this, and like we did a hug. He was very frail, and you know he held my arm getting on stage, and he goes, "You a funny motherfucker."
So he was in decline then.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't think we really knew that in 87, but most people didn't know that Richard was sick in 87.
Yeah, he was moving slow, and he was like, "You a funny motherfucker." Walked on,
you know what? That I would put that on my fucking bio right there.
I actually should. I'm friends with his daughter. Rain and I are really good friends, and I've told her that story once. She was like, "Really? He doesn't say that unless he means it." I go, "Well, I was young, and the room was half empty, and I know I wasn't doing an act."
That's probably what he liked.
Maybe. Who knows?
Well, you never know, brother. You never know.
You never know. I know. Weird.
So are you vaccinated now?
I actually made my appointment today to get fucked in the arm next Thursday at Rite Aid in Beverly Hills. I'm gonna pull up my little.
I got my first shot. How do you feel about it? Honestly, how do you feel about it?
How do I feel about it? It's fine. I don't care. You know, I mean, Bill Gates will push the button and we'll all start speaking a different language.
I'm vaccinated. I got my first shot. I'm going to get another one, but I got to tell you, I think it's healthy to be skeptical of anything a major pharmaceutical company is rolling out.
You know what? I don't know how skeptical what am I going to do? Everyone needs to get vaccinated. You know, this isn't the first time they've done this.
Well, I start touring again at the end of May, and I gotta be vaccinated. I'm not going.
That's the thing. I want to book work. Are you booking work now?
I have 2 dates on the road, and I'm just sort of gonna do it, and maybe I can tack on a few more.
Where?
Starting in Florida, and then maybe going into Georgia, possibly.
Oh, nice. I got my first date booked September 17th, 18th. But I'm looking for dates, so I'm ready. You know, I'm on the phone, and
you know everybody. I
know. I told my agent in New York, start lining stuff up.
See, I need an agent. That's what I need. Someone to book me. Anyone who's going to take 10% of $350 headlining fee. If you're out there, please reach out.
Call Stephen Lolli.
$35 is $35 is a great fee for you to get for booking me.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can work out on Rampantly and keep the jokes fresh before you get back out there.
I love that Rampantly set. I want to do some of your actual, because you guys also do booked. I saw some big shows you guys were doing on Zoom. Some like major headliners, right?
Yeah, that's a show I do once a month with friends. I basically get 5 of my veteran friends and 2 up-and-comers who I think are funny, and I give him a chance to be on a bill with, you know, a bunch of heavy hitters.
Right. Cool. What is that show called? So
It's called Rich Chassler's Comedy Bible Friday Night Spectacular.
Friday night at what time? Pacific Standard Time.
It goes off when we do it. It's usually at 6:30 or 7 o'clock. I think 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock. I gotta check. I think it's 6:30. I think I do it. Will you give me a second and I'll give you
your time. Take your time.
Hold on.
No, you don't have to mute yourself.
6:30.
Okay, 6:30.
6:30.
6:30 Pacific Standard Time. Rich Chassler's Comedy Bible on Zoom. You can find all the details on Facebook.
Rampantly.la.
Rampantly.la, which is.
And then I post it, of course, you know, but you can go to rampantly.la and find that show once a month. I do that on Zoom. And yeah, like I think the first gig I have out that I can promote right now is the Alameda Comedy Club. I'll be headlining there September 17th and 18th in Alameda, California. And with any luck, the Thursday night before that weekend, so the 16th, I'm hoping to be at the Throckmorton Theater in Mill Valley.
Mill Valley, California.
Mill Valley, California. So that'll be a little bit of a
somebody's whispering to you and I can hear him.
Yeah, who do you think? Yeah, who do you think?
Where is she?
Ohio.
Oh. Is she peeking in on our Zoom?
Well, it's not peeking in the Zoom. No, she's just watching the interview on a different device.
Hi, Joli. You're very sophisticated. You're very, very sophisticated. That's Rich's.
Here, let's get really sophisticated.
Beautiful. Oh, there she is. I see.
Let's get really sophisticated.
Hi, Joli.
There you go.
She's pretty brilliant. She's the one who created Rampantly, which is we'll give her a shout out because it is an amazing thing.
Right.
I've never seen anything like it. It might be the most sophisticated, probably is the most sophisticated network of comedy shows online there have ever been.
It is a very sophisticated thing what she did. She built basically what I call it an online computer, like it's an online virtual comedy club, basically. It's a platform that hosts 16, 17 different mics and shows per week for comedians to come and perform on. And it's got a membership of about 1,200 now. And you go to rampantly.la if you're a comedian and you can sign up and join and go list yourself for all these different mics and events. They do quarterly marathons and a Halloween show and a New Year's show. And we just supplied all the virtual comedy for the Las Vegas 420 Comedy Fest. It's pretty freaking crazy. I have to admit. It is a real opportunity to work out jokes.
Correct me if I'm wrong. You have like 2 p.m., 3 p.m. People can get on like any time of day almost. Like,
well, there is a schedule. Like Mondays, there's a morning mic. Okay, so if you want to work out in the morning, you can go to the gym and work out in the morning. On Wednesday afternoons, there's a storytelling mic. And if you want to do something in the afternoon, you got a Wednesday afternoon. If you got, most of the shows are in the evening at night, but yeah, there's stuff during the day too.
So like somebody in Europe or Asia or South America, wherever in crazy time zones can jump on and do some, and show up with, I think somebody from Ireland was in ours.
Yeah.
Oh, you muted your.
Sorry, whoops. There's an Irish comedian who comes in a lot. Apparently, yeah, there's messages from all over. I mean, they come in from everywhere. There's I don't even know how many countries the membership expands to now, but it's really amazing.
It's super cool, man.
It's
so shifting gears, tell us a little bit about your stand-up and your style of stand-up. What you do. I mean, I watched you, but I want to hear it from you. I watched your clip, your Ice House clip you sent me.
Right.
It was like garden variety guys, funny, solid headliner, getting booked, doing mainstream comedy. But I'm sure that's what you send out for work. what you sent me?
It's just a 5-minute clip off, I think it's a 20-minute set that I did opening for Nick Swartzen right before pandemic hit at the Ice House. And, you know, I consider my comedy to be a real slice of me. I'm the same guy on stage as I am off stage. I talk about the same things on stage as I do off stage. So it's like my act isn't reserved for the stage in terms of, or should I say, my life isn't reserved just for the stage. It's literally, I live it and it's what I write about.
So it's funny because I kind of watch you and I'm like, you have observations that could be, you know, Ray Romano or Jerry Seinfeld type observational in that 5-minute clip anyway. But you have an edgy New York energy that you're delivering it with. So it's not like it's not like a comic going up being comatose, you know, and real unemotional. Like you get emotional about shit.
I'm a very no bullshit guy, and I don't really, I like to keep it that way in the comedy too, you know? And I generally say, if you're the kind of person who doesn't like to look in the mirror, you're not going to like my comedy.
Yeah, you know, I can't imagine anybody not liking that. That's like a person to not like that has to be the worst. I mean, somebody who wandered into a comedy club mistakenly.
Right.
Because it's not, you know, it wasn't offensive, but it wasn't like, you know, it wasn't in any way like, you know, cutting the man's throat and painting on the wall with his blood. You were totally like, I could see why these guys want you to open up for them. I could see why Mitch Hedberg would say, Rich, could you come open up for me? Because like you put the audience in a good mood. They feel like they're like, you would be a great host, honestly. I mean, I could see you, because I think a lot of people don't understand the importance of a host making the audience feel like there's something familiar and comfortable and, you know, warm.
That's the host's job, in my opinion. If you want to get old school about it, the host's job is to make the audience feel like they're sitting in his living room, watching like a show with the cousins putting it on.
Exactly. And I got that feeling. I mean, you can only get so much from a 5-minute clip, but that's what I got.
Right.
5-minute clip. So I could see why these comics who may have attained a larger level of fame are like, I want that guy to open up for me. Because the audience is going to be in a good mood. They're going to be loose.
Yeah, they I have to work at not alienating them. When I'm opening for celebrity, I really have to not work the crowd, because if I'm on the road myself, my hour, I do a lot of crowd work, a lot of crowd work. And that's not my audience when I'm opening for somebody else. So
Okay,
I really,
so that's not really interesting. So you shift what you do when you're
no, I just stick more to the material than I do going off page and treating it like it's my show. You know, it's not my show and it's not my crowd to beat up. It's, you know, there's the guy coming on after me whose face is selling the tickets. So, right. You know, I can't really go after the crowd and do a bunch of crowd work and start, you know, pissing people off with the truth when, you know, Swartzen's going to come up on stage and tell fart stories.
That
you know
completely,
what I mean?
Yes, that explains that.
So what you get when I'm opening for a guy like Nick is you actually get to watch me work, like the material, like you get to see it's a little bit, it's no different. It's just that it's fun for me because it's kind of like riding a bike with one training wheel on it.
Right. So that's what I'm saying about the clip you sent me. It was affable. It was actually cute. It was funny. It was affable. It was a little edgy because you're talking about, you know, people taking a shit and going to the bathroom.
Well, I talked about the toilet seat.
The toilet seat. You didn't use the word shit.
No.
You know, I use the word shit. But yes. You see what I'm saying? So then when you're headlining, you can come off the top rope a little bit.
Oh yeah, when I'm headlining, it's my room. I can do whatever I want.
Right.
But that's the thing. You got to respect the guy who's following you, especially if, you know, it's a celebrity and you know.
And especially if you want to continue opening for that guy.
Well, of course, the gigs are great, the money's great, the perks are great. Don't fuck that shit up.
Yeah, you don't want to leave the room in disarray.
Oh,
You don't want to leave the room in disarray. And none of us want to go on the road. When I open up, when I go on the road, I want a comic who I feel comfortable following. I'm not any. I like somebody. I'll bring somebody who I specifically feel like makes the crowd feel exactly the way you make the crowd feel in that clip. You know, and it's just interesting. It's interesting the process of it and what we do. Now there is that also that period though in your career, which you're way past, but for maybe a young comic or newer comic watching this, where you need to let the comic who's following you know that they can't follow you. There's also that period in your career where you need to do that.
yeah, but that's not a conscious choice. It's not like saying, oh, I'm on stage and I'm going to shift from third gear to fourth gear now. Your job is to go on stage and kill. It's to always be in fourth gear. That's your fucking job. People aren't paying to hear the mediocre jokes. So you don't really get to say, tonight I'm going to show that headline. I mean, you can say it, but it's not going to make it so. What happens is, if you do it right, and I tell people coming up now, and none of them have any patience, the internet has fucked the development of stand-up comedians up completely because of YouTube and the expectation that, oh, I can make a 30-second video and get, 500,000 views, I must be funny. Wrong. So if you're doing it correctly and you're letting yourself be an opening act until you're so funny that the people you're working for say, we have to bring you back to feature, or you're featuring and you're doing it correctly and you're working it and you get so funny as the feature that the club owner pays you at the end of the week and says, listen, man, you've been through 4 times already as a feature and the headliners are working too hard. Do you have 20 more minutes? Because I can't bring you back to feature anymore.
Well,
that's how you know it's time to start headline.
Well, and I appreciate that. You're speaking from a perception of you have an opening act, a feature, and a headliner. Feature is the middle act. Let's just call it the middle act.
The middle.
People out there who might be watching don't.
Right, the middle act.
But there's so many comedians now. What's actually happened is clubs don't use features. They'll have a showcase of comics who are either not getting paid at all, their guest spots, all of them, right?
Right.
For the host, and then a headline, a closer. And I mean big clubs like A Rooms will do that now.
But they're doing that on like the Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays, not the weekends. The weekends they're doing 3 acts still.
Sometimes, but like if they bring in a specialty show with a local promoter, I mean, I've seen on Friday.
Oh, that's different. Yeah.
Even at the Improv, I've seen like once a month on Friday and Saturday, they'll bring it. It's just the local host of comedians who are all going to bring their 20 friends, or it's really gotten diluted. I mean, I don't want to get cynical about it, but there was something beautiful about that opener, feature, and headliner. And I actually, when I started, Rich, the clubs would book the feature. The headliners weren't even bringing now.
No, of course
the last 10 years, the headliner brings the feature.
Well, some can, but if the club will, a lot of clubs are like, if you're bringing your own feature, they don't get a room, and the money is this, and they're going to give them shit local money. Unless you're a celebrity, like when I open, then you're getting paid good money out of the celebrities, ridiculous money. But I prefer, if I can bring an opening act with me, a feature, I would like to. I can't always, but when I can, it's nice to. It's at least good to throw your friends' work.
Yeah.
Who
opens for Richard Chassler? That's what I want. That's what we needed to get to. Who opens for Richard Chassler?
Well, I have a few people that I've taken out before. I went through a period of time where I liked booking funny, dirty females because they sort of bowled over every pin before I got on stage. So I could go on stage and not have to worry about touching on something. So I've used Jackie Gold. Do you know Jackie?
I don't think so, but I know the name sounds familiar.
Jackie's very funny. I've used Jackie before. I've hired a guy named Tim McGorry before. That won't happen again. You know, there's, I'm trying to think who else like on the reg. You wanna know what's funny? I offer people work. Sometimes they're like, oh, you know, I'm really only headlining now. I'm like, you're barely a middle act.
Wow.
Yeah, there are people that still, you know, David Wright. You know Dave Wright?
I don't know. No, I don't
David
know.
Wright. You know, he's in San Diego. He's a good friend and he's funny.
Because a lot of times for me, it's because of it's just economically. If I was making $5 grand a show, I would bring my favorite friend from LA with me,
Sure.
you know, and say, hey, here's $500 a show.
Right.
So open up. But you know, a lot of us are limited as we're not really the draw. The club is the draw, and we're coming in as guest comics because my name and your name aren't necessarily going to draw everywhere, you know, and fill 200, 300 seats. Maybe yours will, but I know mine will not. So,
Right.
like I get local comics who are just excited. First of all, they're super fucking cool. I like their comedy. They're probably a little green, but they especially what you say with the funny female.
Right.
There's something about the funny female that sets a tone in the room. Like you say, they do the foreplay so you can just get up there and stick it in.
Mm-hmm.
You
But
know?
I've not even foreplay. Let them go do what they're going to do. But a dirty, funny woman will alienate everybody in the audience at some point in 30 minutes, the men and the women.
Like a good cop, bad cop. Like
so by the time I get on stage, I don't have to worry about alienating anybody. They've already heard it.
You know who's like that is Mike Muratori. Do you know Mike Muratori?
Mike's a friend.
Yeah. I love him because I love following him because I know I'm not going to say anything when I go on after him that's going to shock people.
Right.
I love being on a show with that guy because he just is a calibrator. He calibrates the room just right. And if there's any like uncomfortable boutique millennial type people, they will walk. They will leave the fucking show. And
I'll call them out while they're leaving. I don't give a shit.
In LA, you get a lot of people like that, a lot more in LA than other places.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely true. You get a lot more people like that here than you do on the road. Although, like I say, on the road, I've had people walk out on me just because I said I was Jewish. I mean,
where?
You never know.
Where did that happen? I don't want to.
Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri. So if you watch Ozark, kind of true. Yeah.
People walked out of a show in Ozark, Missouri.
Saturday night, absolutely jam-packed standing room only.
Well,
at a comedy club called the Comic Strip on Bagnell Dam, which is like the big tourist place in Lake of the Ozarks. And it was an awesome gig. And there was a boat. It was just cool. Anyway, I did a joke about being Jewish, and the guys on the very front table walked out.
What did they look like?
They were old white bigots. I don't know. That's what they looked like. Old white bigots.
They didn't know you were fucking Jewish until you said you were fucking Jewish?
Apparently not.
How did they not know? You're a Jewish, Jewy fucking guy.
I get taken for Italian a lot.
Oh. No, you're Jewish, dude. You could be related to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like my last name's Chasslerini.
You know what Lenny Bruce said about he said if you're Italian and you're from New York, you're still Jewish.
Yeah, of course. Everyone from New York is Jewish. At some point, even people who aren't Jewish, they eat matzo ball soup and say oidel, doidel, doidel.
Shit.
Non-Jews take Passover and Rosh Hashanah off. Are you kidding me?
Tell me, yeah, everybody's off on Jewish holidays. Tell me about, because let's get into the nitty gritty here. Tell me about the people you've walked. I want to know about the people you walked who walked out of your show. Like the most memorable.
The most memorable is probably the last time it happened. And I was in, again, the South. I was in Where was I? Chattanooga, Tennessee. At a brand new comedy club called the Bijou Comedy Room. And Pauly Shore was in town working up the street at the other comedy club. And I bill my show as an over 21 show, and they know it's, you know, it's a rated R show. And the Friday night was awesome. It was one of those nights where you couldn't do anything wrong. The setups were killing. You know what I mean?
I do. Those are great nights.
Great nights. Saturday night was different. I got on stage Saturday night and I couldn't figure out what was going on in the room. Like the feature act had a great set, you know, and he's a very affable, smiley, you know, Cosby comedian, you know, hi, how you doing? Nice black guy with a big smile and just really no edge whatsoever, and had a great set. And I was ready to go out there and have another killer time like the night before. And I'm working and I'm working and I'm working. And about 20 minutes in, it feels like I'm wearing cement shoes walking through mud. And I couldn't figure out what was going on in the room. So I say, like, what is going on in here? Why are you people so stiff all of a sudden? And out of the darkness, I hear a voice say, oh, well, you know, we got some children in the room and, you know, you're working a little on the dirty side. And I was like, there's kids in the room? And I had the lighting guy bring the lights up. Now, to give you a visual, this looked like a mini Vegas showroom with the curved booths all facing the stage, tiered up 3 levels. That was how they built it. It's called the Bijou Comedy Room.
Sounds nice.
Beautiful. So the sound guy brings the lights up halfway and I'm like, where are children and why are they in the room? So a guy raises his hand and he points to these 2 teenagers sitting at the table, and it's a long table, 30 people at this table, easy, long, all connected. So I'm like, they're children? And I look at the guy, I go, how old are you? And he's like, 16. I go, is that your dad? And he goes, yeah. I go, the asshole who stopped the show, that's your dad? And he's like, yeah, embarrassed. And I'm like, okay, so am I saying anything here that you've never heard before? On the field at the school, at the 7-Eleven, you know, rated R movie, anything? And like, he doesn't really want to answer. I go, you can answer. Your dad brought you in here. You can answer. And he goes, no. And I go, and who's this girl? Is this your girlfriend? He goes, no, this is my sister. And I go, hi, how old are you? And she goes, 17. And I go, so you've been finger banged already, right?
Oh, man.
Just like that. And right when I said that, the father smacks his hand on the table. That's it. We're leaving. And he stands up to leave. As he stands up to leave, the entire table of 30 stand up to leave. As that table of 30 is funneling out, other tables start to stand up and leave with them. This room held, I think, 240 people. I walked easily 100.
And then the show was able to go on when all those people were finally gone.
Well, they left. I wound up doing another 20 minutes, but I found out that that table was Christian Coalition. The whole table was Christian Coalition. So when they left, all the people sitting there who knew those people from being in town felt obligated to also leave.
Got it.
So I walked about
they were laughing at the Cosby guy. Now that explains why they were laughing at the clean, affable middle act.
Black guy, the clean, affable black guy was great, but the not the raw Jew. I was too much for them.
Yeah.
Saturday night in Chattanooga.
The wrong thing to do. Decide to go to a comedy club.
Yeah. So anyway, so after the show, I'm getting paid in the office, and the general manager of the club is apologizing profusely. She said, I didn't think it was going to be that bad. I go, this is all your fault. Why would you let under 18, let alone under 21 people into a show that is billed as a rated R show? Well, they're Christian Coalition, and we didn't want to step on any toes.
No, they wanted their money.
As she's telling me this, the waiters start coming in with their comment cards that they picked up from their section. And they hand them to the general manager, who looks down at the first one and goes, oh. I go, what? What's it say? She goes, you don't want. I go, yes, I do. I want to know exactly what it says. In fact, read the top 5. And she goes, okay, you call that comedy. Who hired the Jew? Next time should be free. I mean, it was like, yeah. Yeah, then like sprinkled in was one like funniest guy I've ever seen. You know what I mean? But it was like, seriously, I went through a bunch of them. She was like, I'm really sorry. I go, you let kids into an over 21 show, and that's what propagated that entire problem.
So that's great, man. And thank you for sharing that. I want to share one that just popped into my mind in the spirit of the Ozark. Where was that? Knoxville, Tennessee?
No, that was Chattanooga.
Chattanooga. In the spirit of the Chattanooga choo-choo of uncomfortable audience members, I was doing a show. God, I was still in my 20s. I was a kid, you know, but I think I was featuring. I don't think I had started headlining yet. I was 20, probably 25 or 26. And I'm on the road and I'm featuring in this club. We'll not say the name of the club for future booking purposes. We'll keep it anonymous, okay? So people are enjoying themselves and laughing, but right in the front row, Rich, there's like a guy who looks like Boss Hogg from the Dukes of Hazzard.
Right.
And a couple other, and he has like a toothpick. He's kind of leaning back like this, and he's got a toothpick in his mouth. And there's like probably about 4 or 5 other people, and they're just staring at me, dude. They're just staring at me. And because I'm a novice comic, haven't been really doing this long enough. I don't ignore them, which I should have done.
Right.
Because I'm having a good set. It wasn't like what was happening with you. I was having a good set. So what do you do when you're having a good set? You just keep fucking talking and do your shit. But instead, I keyed on these, these 6 or 7 people who were in the front looking right up at me like commie, Jew, queer, and I point to them and I go, what's going on? Did you guys all come together? And they're like, yeah, one guy's like, yeah, we're all family. So, okay, whatever, I go on with the show and everything, and the show goes well, and then I get off stage. And there's this very, very pretty, about 20-year-old or 21-year-old girl, beautiful girl. And she's standing outside in the hall, and I said hello, and I introduced myself to her. And, I had just performed, so you know how it is as a comic. You're going to get lucky. Maybe I'm going to get lucky.
Right.
So I talked to her, and she's very receptive, and I'm like, I'm going home with this girl and I are leaving here together. That was the perception I had after talking to her. So we get outside. She's with that party. She's with that family. She's part of that family that we're all sitting in the front row. Rich.
Of course she is. I saw that coming.
But here's the crazy part. Her uncle comes over. They're all family. The uncle comes over and he's flirting with her, like sexually flirting with her. It's the South, by the way. This is the South. And she comes over to me, and I'm kind of watching this out of the side of my eye. She comes over to me and goes, hey, I'd like to introduce you to my mom. And the mom comes over to me and starts flirting with me. This is a woman, I'm probably 25. This is a woman who's in her mid-40s. And she's flirting with me. And I immediately got this image of they're trying to do, the uncle and the mom and the daughter are trying to find a 4th party to go have a couple swap, a family, right. Bring someone into the family. And I got the fuck out of there so fast.
That's a scary one, man.
The South,
couple swapping with hillbillies. Yeah, I'm not sure that I'd be down for that one.
Crazy shit. Anyway, thanks
crazy
for one out of my memory.
Crazy times.
So we are getting to the end of our hour. So dude, tell us where we can find you on social media.
Right. I'm easy to find. Pretty much everything is at Richard Chassler, except for my Twitter, which is at Funny Wino. And my Facebook fan page is Richard Chassler. So pretty easy to get, pretty easy to find.
What is your main social media? The one you use that you would say? Do you have one that is?
Instagram is at Richard Chassler. Facebook, Richard Chassler.
Okay. All right. And what are you working on now? What are you busy with?
Busy with so much, believe it or not. I started doing a show with Jeremy Hotz during the pandemic, and so now we do that every other Sunday. And there's a few people interested in that now, so we're working on blowing that out to another level, I guess. So I'm working on that, and I'm working on booking stuff and just starting to audition again. You know, that stuff's starting to come in. I actually just had picking up new agents here and there, new management. You know, COVID, a lot of changes over that year, you know.
So you've had to sort of shuffle around your
My rep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm shuffling. I'm choosing to shuffle it around a little bit and you know, like put a stick in the spokes.
Yeah, blow it up and start over again, maybe.
So to speak. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the whole business is changing. I mean, you know, things are changing.
Yes, things are changing. Maybe Universal will come in and buy Rampantly for 40 million and put everything on Zoom.
I mean, you never know. They might.
You never know.
It'd be the next phase in the comedy boom.
It could be the next phase in the entertainment boom. Who knows?
Well, it is certainly an impressive thing. So people go out and check out Richard and Joli. We give Joli a plug because she created this.
She did. Joli Rx.
Joli Rx. And their Rampantly site. And you can find them through, you could just go, Facebook is where I see it. But I'm sure you can find them through Instagram, Twitter, any of these.
Go to rampantly.la. Easiest way, just rampantly.la. But you could also go, you know, to richardchassler.com if you want, you know.
Chassler.com is where we're going to be able to find your
That's where you find me, right? And but I'm doing a lot of shows on Rampantly, so if you know, I've written a lot of comedy since the pandemic because I was working out.
You just seem like a guy who can write comedy. Like you seem like a guy who's just everything that's happening you can fucking absorb into your act, dude.
Comedy writes itself.
Dude,
I don't even write it. All I do, it literally writes itself. I'm the orator by which it gets heard.
Yeah, see, I can't do that. I have to have deep-seated pain and suffering and pry it out with a shoehorn. And I envy you. And I get funnier hanging out around guys like you because it's so easy and natural for you. So I really appreciate you, brother. Really appreciate
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. And so we're gonna look out for Rich and No Idea Zone. I guess
Oh, Anna, you can see me in the new. There's a documentary about John Pinette coming out called You Go Now. And I'm featured pretty heavily in that. So you can see me in the new John Pinette documentary as well.
YouTube, Amazon, where can we catch it?
I don't know. It was supposed to be premiering at film festivals last year, but I understand they just released the trailer. So,
hey, we have a relic, a great longtime veteran comic who's come on, and I just really appreciate you coming on. I appreciate your love for my podcast.
Thanks, Steve. I'm glad you had me.
You got it, brother. Well, we'll see you in a couple weeks when we premiere this on the No Idea Zone. See you guys.
Very good. Take care.
Thanks again, brother.
Hey, everybody. I hope you enjoyed whatever you saw on our channel today. Make sure to like, comment, and share everything you see here. And please hit that big red subscribe button. You have no idea how much it helps the No Idea Zone every time you hit that button. Thanks again, and we'll see you on the next installment of the No Idea Zone.